Welcome back, Star Wars fans, to the channel where we dive deep into the heart of the galaxy of Star Wars, uncovering the most intricate and emotional moments in the Star Wars universe. Today we're focusing on one of the most emotionally dark moments from the Andor series, the final conversation between Cassian Andor and his mother, Maarva Andor. This emotionally charged scene happens when Cassian tries to convince Marva to leave Ferrix and go with him to safety, but she refuses. The conversation speaks volumes about both characters and where they are in their emotional and moral journeys at this point in the Star Wars timeline. The scene holds tremendous weight, not just because it's the last time Cassian sees Marva alive, but because it marks a turning point for Cassian Andor himself. In this moment, we see two opposing philosophies: Cassian, who's jaded by his experiences, and Marva, who's ignited by the desire to stand up to the Empire. We'll also touch on how this moment influences Cassian's ultimate transformation into the rebel hero we know from Rogue One. We'll break down the dialogue, the atmosphere, and even B2EMO's reaction. The scene is loaded with subtext, and we're here to unpack every bit of it. Plus, we'll explore key themes in Andor and Star Wars that resonate through this scene: family, rebellion, and sacrifice. These topics are central to the Star Wars franchise, making this scene not just about Cassian and Marva, but about the larger battle for freedom across the galaxy. But before I go on, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor, and that sponsor is me. Yeah, I pay for the stuff around here. Along with your help, we make this channel great. Hey, that sounds like a political statement. Not at all. I'm not a political person. But if you're a fan of Star Wars, Andor, or Rogue One, then you're in the right place.
Hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give the video a big stupid thumbs up. It really does help get my message across the Star Wars fandom. If you subscribe and like the video, it will give you a sense of happiness and euphoria, unlike anything you've experienced. It'll make your family love you more, and your water will turn to beer. Yeah, beer. And the type of beer you get is up to the will of the Force. If you get O'Doul suddenly shooting out of your shower, not my fault. If you don't subscribe and like, I'm sure your family will still like you just fine, and water will be good enough. But it's better to be safe and subscribe anyway.
Okay, so it wasn't the tiny voice, but you get the message. Subscribe, like, and comment. All right, so Cassian Andor is at this point a broken man. He's been on the run from the Empire, not because he wants to be a hero, but because he's trying to survive. He's not a believer in the rebellion yet. In fact, in this moment, he's practically rebelling against the idea of rebellion itself. He doesn't see the point of fighting back against the Empire. He's seen too much suffering, endured too many losses, and he's done with the idea that any kind of organized rebellion could actually make a difference. At this point in Andor, Cassian is disconnected from any larger cause. He doesn't have the idealism of someone like Luke Skywalker, or even the ruthless focus of someone like Saw Gerrera. What he has is survival instinct and a growing sense of responsibility toward his loved ones. His priority is getting Maarva Andor out of harm's way, not staging a rebellion. He believes that if they can just escape Ferrix, they'll be free of the Empire's reach. It's a naive hope, but it's also deeply human. Cassian wants to protect his family, and in his eyes, leaving Ferrix is the only way to do that. This mindset makes Cassian a fascinating character. He's not the archetypal hero we often see in Star Wars. He's flawed, conflicted, and at times selfish. But this moment with Marva plants the seeds for his eventual transformation into the rebel leader we know he becomes in Rogue One. It's kind of ironic, isn't it? I'll get into that in a moment. The conversation we're about to dissect is pivotal in this character arc. It's the beginning of the end of Cassian's days as someone who runs from conflict and the start of his journey toward embracing the fight against the Empire. Cassian's plea to Marva is simple and direct. We can leave now. In this, we see Cassian's desperation, his genuine concern for her safety, but underlying this is his own desire to escape. He's not ready to face the reality that rebellion might be necessary. This part of Cassian's journey mirrors the broader theme in Star Wars about the reluctance to fight until the stakes become personal. Cassian hasn't yet accepted the larger war. To him, this is still about survival, not justice. Now let's talk about Marva. While Cassian's mindset is all about self-preservation, Marva has undergone a transformation of her own. By the time this conversation happens, Marva has fully embraced the rebellion, or the idea of it. It's not just about survival for her anymore. It's about standing up for something greater than herself. She's seen the brutality of the Empire firsthand, and she refuses to be a passive victim any longer. Marva's statement, "I've never loved anything the way I love you," is a pivotal moment. It's not just about her connection to her home and Cassian. It's about her commitment to fighting for what she believes in and willing to abandon that love for the greater good. Ferrix represents everything she holds dear: her community, her sense of purpose, her identity, her family, and now the Empire threatens all of that. But instead of fleeing, Marva makes the decision to stay and fight, no matter the cost. This is her rebellion, her stand against the Empire. Her line, "I'm staying," is delivered with a quiet but fierce determination. Marva doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. Her resolve is unshakable. She has no illusions about the danger she's facing, but to her, staying and resisting is more important than running away. Her strength in this moment is remarkable, and it contrasts sharply with Cassian's fear of getting involved. Marva's transformation is a key moment, not just in her own arc, but in the overall narrative of Andor. She represents the ordinary people of the galaxy who are pushed to the point where they have no choice but to resist. In this way, she's similar to characters like Jyn Erso or even Leia Organa. People who find themselves in situations where standing up is the only option left. Marva's decision to stay is a reflection of the larger theme of a rebellion that runs throughout the Star Wars saga. In Star Wars, we see time and time again that rebellion isn't just about battles and soldiers. It's about ordinary people deciding that they've had enough. It's about communities coming together to resist oppression. Marva embodies this spirit of rebellion, and her influence on Cassian cannot be overstated. She's not just his mother. She's the one who shows him that the fight against the Empire is worth it, no matter the cost. And I've talked about Maarva Andor extensively in other videos, so I don't want to keep going on about her, but let's move on to another character in this scene. Let's take a moment to focus on B2EMO, the lovable, loyal droid who is often the emotional heart of scenes like this. In this final conversation between Cassian and Marva, B2EMO plays a small but significant role. The droid's excitement when Cassian suggests they leave is palpable. B2EMO wants to believe that they can escape, that they can find safety. This makes B2EMO a perfect representation of the audience's emotional stake. We want them to leave together. We want them to escape the inevitable tragedy that's looming over this moment. But there's also a deep sadness in B2EMO's reaction. When Marva refuses to go, B2EMO's hope is crushed, and his hesitation reveals a subtle awareness of the danger that lies ahead. B2EMO is simple, childlike, and he's afraid. The fear is losing Marva, of being left behind, of facing the Empire's wrath. B2EMO feels all of this, and we, as the audience, feel it through him. In this moment, B2EMO is more than just a droid. He's the emotional core of the scene, expressing the sorrow and fear that both Cassian and Marva are trying to suppress. When B2EMO says, "We can leave now, can't we?" It's a heartbreaking moment because we know deep down that they're not going anywhere. This line reflects the innocence of the droid, who doesn't fully grasp the stakes, but also the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, they can escape the tragedy and that they will all sense coming. B2EMO's role in this scene may be small, but it's crucial in grounding the emotional weight of the moment. Now let's break down the dialogue itself. Cassian's plea to Marva, "You don't owe them this," is a powerful line because it encapsulates his fear and frustration. He's spent his whole life trying to protect the people he cares about by keeping them out of danger. To him, staying on Ferrix and fighting the Empire seems like a reckless decision. He's trying to make Marva see the futility of it. But what he doesn't understand, at least not yet, is that Marva doesn't see this as futility. She sees it as a purpose. The back and forth between Cassian and Marva in this scene is a classic case of generational conflict. Cassian, who's still relatively young and jaded by his experiences, can't see the point of fighting the Empire. He spent too much time on the run, too much time trying to avoid the Empire's gaze. To him, rebellion is dangerous, reckless, and likely to get people killed. Marva, on the other hand, has come to the conclusion that some things are worth dying for. Her perspective has shifted to one of defiance and resistance, even if it means sacrificing everything, including herself. When Marva says, "I'm not running," it's a statement of defiance, but also one of love for her home, for her people, and for Cassian. Even though he can't fully comprehend it at this moment, she's not refusing to leave Ferrix. She's refusing to abandon the fight for what she believes in is right. To Marva, running away would mean letting the Empire win, and she can't accept that. Her resolve is firm, even if it means losing everything, including her son's understanding. The tension in the dialogue is palpable. Cassian's frustration grows as Marva's decision becomes clearer. He wants to protect her, but her defiance makes him feel powerless. He pleads with her, "We can leave now. We can go somewhere safe." But the truth is, nowhere in the galaxy is truly safe from the Empire, and deep down, Cassian knows this. That's why his desperation is so raw in this scene. He's trying to hold on to the illusion of safety, the idea that they can somehow escape the Empire's grasp. Marva, however, sees things differently. For her, this is no escape, only the choice to fight back or surrender. As the conversation unfolds, it's clear that this is about more than just a mother and son disagreeing over where to live. It's about two very different perspectives on life under Imperial rule. Cassian wants to protect what he loves by avoiding conflict, while Marva believes that true protection comes from standing up to the oppressor. In this way, Marva represents the soul of the rebellion, the courage to resist even when it seems hopeless. She's the spark that lights the fire. And this conversation is where that fire starts to ignite with Cassian, even if he doesn't realize it yet. One of the most heartbreaking aspects of this scene is that Cassian doesn't know this is the last time he will ever see Marva alive. The audience, however, can sense it. Everything about the scene, the tone, the dialogue, the unspoken tension, suggests finality. There's a tragic irony in the way Cassian tries so hard to save Marva, not knowing that she has already made her choice and that her health is failing. She's chosen to stay, chosen to fight, and ultimately chosen her own path, independent of her son's wishes. Cassian Andor's blindness to this is painful to watch because we as viewers know what's coming. Marva's decision to remain on Ferrix is not just an act of rebellion against the Empire, it's also an act of rebellion against Cassian's protectiveness. She loves him, but she knows that he cannot shield her from the Empire forever. In this way, Marva's decision to stay is also a gift to Cassian Andor. She's forcing him to confront the reality that running isn't enough. She's showing him through her actions that at some point you have to stand up and fight. The tragedy here is twofold. Cassian is losing his mother, but he doesn't realize it yet. And he's also losing the illusion that he can keep running from the Empire. This scene is a moment of emotional reckoning for Cassian Andor, even if the full impact of it won't hit him until later. It's the beginning of the end of his reluctance to join the fight against the Empire. Marva's refusal to leave Ferrix is the catalyst that will eventually push him toward rebellion, or at least help. Marva's decision to stay is deeply rooted in her love for Cassian Andor as well, though it might not seem like that on the surface. By choosing to remain on Ferrix and fight, she's teaching Cassian a valuable lesson. Sometimes, the only way to protect what you love is to stand your ground. This is the core of the rebellion's ethos in Star Wars. It's about more than just fighting against tyranny. It's about protecting the people and places that matter most. Marva knows that Cassian can't run forever, and by staying behind, she's showing him that running is no longer an option for her. Marva's role in Cassian's journey cannot be overstated. She's the one who plants the seeds of rebellion in him, even if he's not ready to acknowledge it yet. Her defiance, her courage, and her unwavering love for Ferrix and Cassian are what ultimately inspire Cassian to join the cause. In a way, Marva is the heart of the rebellion in this series, representing the ordinary citizens who are pushed to the breaking point and decide to fight back. Her impact on Cassian is profound, shaping him into the leader he will eventually become. Okay, now let's revisit B2 Emo, who plays a crucial emotional role in this scene. B2 Emo is more than just a droid. He's a symbol of the family bond between Cassian and Maarva Andor. In many ways, B2 Emo's reactions mirror the audience's own emotions. When Cassian suggests leaving for Ferrix, B2 Emo's excitement is evident. He wants to believe that they can escape, that they can find safety together. But when Marva refuses, B2 Emo's fear becomes palpable. B2 Emo's stuttered speech and hesitant movements convey his inner turmoil and also show the shaky ground that Maarva Andor herself stands on with her health. He doesn't fully understand why Marva won't leave, but he senses the danger of staying. In this way, B2 Emo represents the innocence and vulnerability that both Cassian and Marva are trying to protect. The droid's emotional response heightens the tension of the scene as we feel his anxiety and fear the future. B2 Emo's role in this scene is subtle but significant. His fear of being left behind, of losing the only family he's ever known, adds another layer of emotional depth to the conversation. B2 Emo's heartbreak is a reflection of the audience's own feelings. We too fear what will happen if Marva stays behind, and we too are dreading the outcome of this fateful decision. As Cassian Andor prepares to leave, the unspoken tragedy of the scene becomes clear. He doesn't know this will be the last time he ever sees Marva alive, but the atmosphere of the scene suggests finality. The weight of the moment is heavy, even if the characters don't acknowledge it outright. Marva's decision to stay, Cassian's inability to convince her otherwise, and B2 Emo's quiet fear all contribute to the sense that this is a farewell, even if no one says it out loud. This unspoken tragedy is one of the hallmarks of Andor as a series. The show doesn't rely on big, bombastic moments to drive its emotional beats. Instead, it uses quiet, intimate scenes like this one to explore the personal stakes of the rebellion. Cassian and Marva's final conversation is a perfect example of this. It's a deeply emotional moment that sets the stage for the larger battles to come. As Cassian walks away, we're left with a sense of inevitable loss. Marva's fate is sealed, and Cassian's journey is far from over. But this conversation marks the beginning of his transformation. It's the moment when he starts to understand that some things are worth fighting for, even if it means losing the people you love or your own life. Now let's delve into the last aspect of it, and that's the technical aspect of this scene. The lighting and music, which both play crucial roles in heightening the emotional intensity of the moment. One of the most striking elements of the conversation is the way it's lit. The dim, shadow-filled room creates a sense of isolation, of being trapped. The soft, flickering light around Marva makes her seem both fragile and determined, casting long shadows that reflect the looming presence of the Empire. There's a sense of encroaching darkness, symbolizing both the Empire's tightening grip on Ferrix and the impending tragedy of Marva's fate. For Cassian, the lighting reflects his inner turmoil. As he stands by the doorway, half in shadow and half in light, we visually see the conflict on him. He's caught between the instinct to protect his mother and the growth realization that he can't shield her from the consequences of her choice. The dim, muted colors create a suffocating atmosphere, underscoring the weight of the conversation and the unspoken fear that this might be their last moment together. The music is equally powerful in conveying the emotional stakes of the scene. It's subtle, almost imperceptible at first. But as the conversation progresses, a low, mournful scorn begins to build in the background. It's not overbearing, but it adds a layer of melancholy to the scene, hinting at the inevitable loss that awaits. The music swells slightly as Cassian realizes he can't convince Marva to leave, creating a poignant tension that mirrors the internal struggle both characters are experiencing. The absence of loud, dramatic music also reflects the show's approach to storytelling. Andor doesn't rely on big soundtracks to drive home its emotional beats. Instead, the music is understated, allowing the dialogue and the actor's performance to take center stage. This restraint makes the scene feel more grounded and real, pulling the audience deeper into the emotional core of the story. And as we've explored today, this scene is about more than just a mother and son having a disagreement. It's about the broader battle between the Empire and the Rebellion, and the choices that ordinary people make in extraordinary circumstances. Marva represents the heart of the rebellion, the courage to stand up against tyranny, even when the odds are stacked against you. Cassian's journey from reluctant survivor to committed rebel begins in this moment, and it's Marva's strength that guides him toward his ultimate destiny. The final conversation is a microcosm of the larger Star Wars saga, where individuals find themselves at a crossroads, forced to choose between running away or standing and fighting. We see it all over Star Wars. It's a theme that resonates throughout the galaxy, from the streets of Ferrix to the battlefields of Scarif, and it's what makes Star Wars such a timeless and powerful story. Now, here soon I will be going into Rogue One with a lot of detail as soon as I finish Andor. Still have a few more episodes to go, so stick with me. It'll be worth it, I promise. And if you've enjoyed this deep dive into Cassian and Marva's relationship, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more in-depth Star Wars analysis. Hit the like button, leave a comment down below as to what your favorite scene is in Andor, and if you have another scene that you would like me to analyze. I'd like to hear from you. Anyways, until the next time, this is Gerald, a Star Wars fanatic, signing off, wishing you all great health, happiness, and peace. Thank you all for watching, and remember, this is the way.